Thanks very much. Let me make sure that we have into the record the broad support for Mr. Dettelbach from America's law enforcement community. And without objection, I will put into the record the letter of support from the National Sheriff's Association. I will put into the record the letter of support from the International Association of Chiefs of Police. And I will put into the record the letter of support from the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. I would add that the Federal Law Enforcement Officers Association, the Major County Sheriff's Association, Women in Federal Law Enforcement, a separate organization, 141 former Department of Justice officials from both parties, the prosecutors in the Oklahoma City bombing case, the Association of Prosecuting Attorneys, the Hispanic American Police Command Officers Association, and others have expressed their support for Mr. Dettelbach based on his distinguished record of fair and effective prosecution as U.S. Attorney and elsewhere in his career. I would like to say that it's intensely frustrating to the point of sickening to serve in this body while massacres of children and others take place in venues like grocery stores and elementary schools, and be unable to pass simple laws that are well accepted not only by the American people, but by gun-owning Americans that have records of success at the state level and that we can't do a thing about here. And I think there's a very simple reason why we can't do a thing about it here, and that's the National Rifle Association. We got letters from throughout law enforcement. We didn't get one for Mr. Dettelbach from the National Rifle Association, but it is immensely impactful in this room and in our body. We have many colleagues who heel to the NRA's direction and bidding. They do so because the dark money operation run by the National Rifle Association has immense, if secretive, political clout. It's impossible to track the money flowing in and out of the NRA because it's not properly disclosed, but there has been evidence that Russian money has flowed into the NRA, and that has not been dispelled by any light of transparency shown at the NRA. We are obliged to talk about reasonable responses to these massacres and murders, and there is absolutely nothing about the NRA's position in these matters that is reasonable. It has an absolutist ideology about guns that is driven by economic motivation to keep the gun manufacturers making profits, and they get their way because they enforce that ideology driven by economic motivation with massive dark money political muscle. It's not the only place in which dark money political muscle has disabled the Congress, but it is certainly one of the worst. And if we're going to put an end to it, we're going to have a bit of a reckoning with the behavior of the NRA and its absolutist positions and its refusal to disclose its donors and the whole mess that it has created, where we can't have reasonable bipartisan discussions about what needs to be done to fix this problem. So I will yield back there. I will ask Mr. Dettelbach a question for the record. I've been a prosecutor like you. We've got the situation one sees all too often where police roll up to a shooting scene. The EMTs are perhaps there dealing with the victims. The police tape may be out already. The sidewalk and the street are scattered with shells ejected by the shooter. The shooter is long gone, but the cartridge casings contain incredibly important evidence that, if brought to those police officers on the scene quickly can help give them information that could be essential to being able to locate the escaped shooter and prevent further injuries. And I will ask you in a question for the record to lay out how, as ATF director, you will enhance the ability of local law enforcement to get that information as quickly as possible and as effectively as possible so that they can solve these crimes as quickly and effectively as possible. My time has expired, so I will yield back to the chairman.